Welcome to the Landlord Diaries, where we talk about midterm rentals and the opportunities behind them. We'll share landlord stories, talk about maximizing investment potential, and discuss how to live the very best landlord life. This podcast is proudly brought to you by Furnished, the leader and largest online marketplace for midterm rentals. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy our content.
It's your host team, Kelly Bailey and Katie Lyon of the Landlord Diaries, coming to you from the Furnished marketing team. We are both midterm rental hosts with 5 to 10 properties of our own that we manage in different areas of the country. And Katie, remember how I got into room rentals at the beginning or mid of 2023?
I sure do.
I wanted to give an update there. So I've now had my first round of flips or second round of flips, and it's going very well. So I didn't overthink the room rental situation. We didn't make sure and, really change it much at all from operating as an entire unit. We've just kind of let the tenants organically figure out how they work well together, and it's worked really well. It does help that there's 2 refrigerators and 2 pantry areas in the house. And reminder, we did the luxury room rental where it's not 3 people in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. It's 2 people in a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home. They each have their own private bath, and then we've got that ADU in the back. And it's just been wonderful. So if you're thinking of room rentals or entire units, you can market them both ways and see which one wins out. So just an update and encouragement there. And Katie, what did you think about today?
I love that. And that reminds me, Kelly, about Sally, who we talked to today, because we talk about just kind of having some faith and going for it with Sally, and how, yes, there's a lot to learn, a lot to prepare for, a lot you can research when you're thinking about getting into the midterm rental space. But also you just learn by doing it, right? And testing the waters while you're in them. And she talks a lot about that. And I think that's such a great takeaway because, like you said, when you decided to give the room rentals a try, sure, you thought about it, you prepared, but you weren't sitting there thinking about it for months and months and months. You gave it a try. So I think that's something that everyone can carry with them if they're in the midterm rental space or thinking about entering the midterm rental space. If you have an idea, test it out, right? So Sally is in Rochester, New York. She is very organized. She's highly motivated. She's very creative in the way she gets things done. She talks to us about some tools like Trello and Canva, and she talks about hard money lenders. So she was very informative to talk to. So we hope you enjoy this. If you do, please don't forget to leave us some comments or questions on the YouTube channel. Please share with a friend or a fellow investor or landlord if you think that they would get benefit from it as well, because we really do produce these for you guys. That's what we do here at Furnished Finder. We do things for, to make everyone in the midterm rental space better. So we look forward to hearing from you.
In today's episode, we travel to Rochester, New York. Sally Berry brings a fresh perspective with some topics we haven't discussed yet on our show. We will engage these 5 topics in detail: hospitality hosting advice, concentrating your portfolio on one zip code, creating a pitch deck for banks and private money lenders, free project management software to take your business to the next level, and implementing AI into your business. Sally, thank you so much for being here with us today. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, and I'm so excited. This is one of my favorite podcasts to listen to every week on my walk, so I'm thrilled to be an actual part of it this time.
I love that.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate that. So you are not new to the hospitality world. You had a long career in tourism, I believe, tourism attractions at the New York State. So tell us about that journey and how it applies to how you host today.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was in the hospitality and tourism industry for over 25 years. I worked at a combination of tourism attractions, as you mentioned, in New York State, and also tourism destinations where I learned how to promote and encourage people to come visit a destination. So I have a really interesting sales and marketing background with getting people to come to wherever I was. So I loved that career. I loved traveling, got to travel all around the world. And all along at the same time, I had one rental. And in the back of my mind, I kept thinking, I want to get more rentals. I want to get more rentals. And, I half-hearted attempted it and chickened out, and half-hearted attempted and chickened out. And then in 2021, sort of took a whole new tact and kind of have walked away from a wonderful career in tourism and started my second career in real estate investing.
Sally, now on our intro call, I really loved three specific things we talked about in regards to your history in the hospitality world. And one of them was your biggest advice was no one reads anymore. So tell us more about how you implement that into your listing on Furnish Finder.
Yes, and first off, I'm glad you take notes because I forgot we had discussed that. But it is so true. And when you write marketing copy, one of the things I learned very quickly is people don't read blocks of text. So when you're trying to describe a destination, those long, lengthy blocks, their eyeballs just go over it. And it's only gotten worse in the last few years. So what I always encourage and what I do in my listings is 2 to 3 sentences and then some bullet points. 2 to 3 sentences and some bullet points. And of course, the old adage, a picture's worth 1,000 words is truer than ever. So less words and just more phrases of what people are looking for because people just glance over things. So definitely.
Love it. Now let's talk about another tip you had, which was finding unlicensed photography to add to your listing.
Yeah, so there's a lot of places where you can get free photography. Stock photos is what it's called. And if you just Google, you can look in Google Photos. There's a few other sites that will do that. Pixabay is one, Pexels is another. But you can download pictures of what the venues look like, what the destinations look like. I know for Rochester, New York, which is where I concentrate, there are some beautiful sunset photography. We have beautiful waterfalls in downtown Rochester, and they are free license to use. So I tend to use those either on the front page of my website or with a listing, and it really gives folks an idea of what the destination looks like. And obviously doesn't cost you anything to use. I do always caution people, make sure it does not have a license attached to it because you can get in trouble. But if you just Google how to use creative license, it's called, or free to use photos, there's a plethora of any destination out there.
So the final thing you mentioned in our intro call was focus on the top three things your property has to offer. So why don't we take one of your properties and tell us what are the top 3 things you focus on for that property?
Sure. And that kind of goes back to people don't read. And when I used to go out and do sales calls on tour companies and try to convince them to come to my destination, I learned very quickly that after number 3, people start losing interest, their minds start to wander, and you lose the strength of your sales pitch. So when I list my properties, I'll put the 3 bullet points. So for instance, one of the properties that we just listed about 3 weeks ago, fully renovated, fenced backyard, and local to there's 3 hospitals in Rochester, so close to all 3 hospitals. And then after that, you can certainly talk about that. But those 3 things give someone a sense of, okay, if I'm near the hospitals, it's going to be a brand new build. Everything's going to look great. And if I have a pet, I've got a fenced backyard.
Perfect. Because about 50% of our travelers do have pets. So that's an excellent one to point out.
Yeah, it's interesting. When I first started getting midterm rentals, I didn't think I'd ever have pets. And it seems like at least half of my requests recently have been for pets. And one of the tenants that just moved into that property I was describing has an emotional service animal, an ESA. And so I was glad I was able to provide housing for her. And the dog loves the backyard. I even bought a doormat for the house that says "Wipe your paws" because it's the first time I've had a pet. Oh, and then I got a pillow that says the dog stays here" or something like that. So she was thrilled that I took those extra little steps. But yeah, so having a fenced yard and walkable streets and that sort of thing for people that have pets is important.
I think this is very important. I was actually talking to a group of landlords a couple weeks ago, and when we were talking about marketing and talking about headlines in particular, and these travelers are not looking for the beach house or the themed out property or the maximum number of beds all the time like you might be if you're looking for a short-term rental. I'm like, stop putting the word cozy or quaint or anything like that in your property headlines and start putting things that you really benefit this type of traveler, like safe, pet friendly, centrally located. These
Good
people
internet.
are looking,
Yep.
yes, these people are looking for things that will serve them over 3, 6, 9 months, right? They're not as concerned about do you have the different board games, or can I sleep 12 people in this property if, we bring my nieces and nephews along for vacation. So it's really like knowing what audience you're going for and tailoring, even starting at that headline specifically to them. And you're right. Unfortunately, we've all lost our attention span. We don't read a lot. I always try to think, okay, is this something that my second grader could get the benefit of by the time she loses attention, because she has about an 8-second attention span.
Yep, and that's a very good metric to use. One of the other things that I always make sure to list to is how close a grocery store is and a drugstore, because they often will go on their way home from work at whatever 5 a.m. And Planet Fitness, people seem to want to know where there's a gym nearby. So I tend to mention those when they're nearby as well. So yeah.
Okay, not specifically Planet Fitness. That just happens to be the one that's close to your
That's
property.
the one that's, yes, exactly.
Got it.
Whatever there's a gym or something. Although I will say I think that specific gym, because you can have a membership and go anywhere in the country, I do think a fair number of people do belong to that one. So yeah.
Very cool. Well, Sally, let's get to my favorite question. Kelly knows it. I want to know all about your portfolio and just kind of a quick snapshot from how you got from step 1 to where you are today. So run us through, what's in your portfolio.
With the emphasis being on a very different style portfolio that everything is in one zip code. So why did you choose that zip code associated with it?
Yes, except for the first one, which I'm going to tell you about. So my first property is an ADU, additional dwelling unit, which is, at the time, I've had it for 20 years, is an apartment over my garage. So we always called it the apartment over the garage. Now we call it the ADU. But that was my first property. And I think I mentioned to Kelly that I was a single mom with 3 young kids. So I was like, how the heck else can I make money? And I had that spot converted. And it was a long-term rental originally. And then I was approached by someone that was starting to do short-term rentals. It was a new thing before Airbnb. So I worked with them for a few years. And then in 2009, I joined Airbnb. So it was an Airbnb for many years. And then in 2013, I was traveling quite a lot for my job. So I turned that property into a midterm rental. Although at the time, that wasn't a term either. I just called it, I called it 6-month leases because,
Nice.
and I was able to find lots of people who were looking for furnished 6-month leases. And, travel nurses weren't a thing then. And where I live is not near the city. So it was many different reasons. And I always say that's one of the things I've learned about midterm rentals is there are as many different reasons why people need one as there are people. I've had, I have a young couple that are staying out there now that are trying to buy a house and they keep getting pushed out. So, they've been there for a year. But we have an understanding that if they find something and give me 60 days notice, they'll be able to move out. So they've been great. The rest of my properties are up in Rochester, New York, and that happened only because once I made the decision I'm going to buy a property. I found one on Craigslist, and this was in 2021, and it happened to be in this specific zip code, and it was a tired landlord, and the house needed some work, not a ton, and I put an offer in, and the gentleman that was the landlord also happened to be a private money lender, so he and I kind of hit it off, and he said, would you like me to fund the deal for you? I said, wow, that would be great. So I loved this area. It's near the major roads. It's near the, schools are good in this area. It's near the grocery stores and everything. And so while I was working on the original one, I realized the house 2 doors down was empty. So I worked with a wholesaler friend of mine, and he got that one under contract. So I bought that one. And then I just started to know this zip code well and decided I could just focus on this one zip code. So now I have, in this zip code, I have 3 rent-to-own properties. So I have families in them that are have put down payments on them and are working on their credit, so they'll be able to purchase from me. I have 3 midterm rentals, all with traveling nurses in them. I have one that I arbitraged, which after listening to a Furnished Finder, Landlord Diaries podcast, I was like, I think I could do that. So I have one arbitrage, and then we have 2 we're working on that are going to be flips. And then I just got an accepted contract on my first duplex, but also in that zip code, which is very rare because it's a very residential zip code. And that's going to be a midterm rental as well. So 11 properties altogether.
Look at you go. That's amazing.
I know. Considering that 2 years ago I had 1 and I thought, well, if I can get 3, I'll be doing good. But,
that is amazing.
I feel really lucky. The private money lender has just been a great partner for me. And, I've learned to live outside your comfort zone, right? Do it scared, all those things. And it's enabled me to grow the portfolio. And my contractor lives in that zip code as well. So once I found him, things really started to come together.
Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Furnished Finder, the ultimate platform for hassle-free midterm rentals. Whether you're a seasoned landlord or just getting started, Furnished Finder has everything you need to find your next tenant. With Furnished Finder, you can say goodbye to booking fees, markups, and commissions, and hello to direct bookings. If you're ready to experience all the benefits renting your property for 30 days or more, head over to furnishedfinder.com where you can list your property for one low annual price. We make it easy to get started.
So, Sally, you have a reason that you typically focus on one zip code. And, I kind of look at it as supply chain management. If you have everything in one area, then you can scale on many different fronts. And one of those for you is building pitch decks in Canva for banks and private money lenders. So I would love to hear how that works to get the banks on board with funding your midterm rentals, and what interest rate are you getting with those?
So I'll talk about Canva first, and for anyone that hasn't tried it, it's like opening a big craft box. It's very user friendly. It's free. There's certainly a paid version, but you can do a lot with the free version. And the reason I created a pitch deck, which is basically, like a presentation, was because when I started talking to lenders and my banker, they didn't know what midterm rentals were. So I created this very easy to follow presentation that I could just email them. And actually I used stats from Furnished Finders. I went to furnishedfinder.com stats and was able to pull up the Rochester stats. And Rochester was the #1 location in New York State for travel nurses at the time I put that pitch deck together. So that was a really compelling piece of information for them to see. And I was able to also take a screenshot from the website of what the prices were for single rooms as well as homes, so they could see what the demand and the opportunity was. I did a little describing of what a midterm rental is, and as you said, it's certainly travel nurses, but I've had retirees who are looking to relocate. I've had folks that are being relocated for a job and don't have time to go look for an apartment and furnish it. So it was informational for sure, just to have them understand that it's not just a trend. It's something that's certainly been around for a long time. And to your point, it's not going anywhere, and why it's a good market. And I talk about how, the nurses that I have, they pay on time. They are very neat. In fact, one of the nurses, I have 2 nurses in one of my newer homes, and they said, would you mind if we got a cleaner to come in every other week? We just really want to keep it clean. I was like, oh my gosh, these are just the best tenants ever. They're lovely. They're lovely. So that pitch deck has really been made things much easier when I talk to bankers. I don't have a W-2 job anymore, so I have been able to work with a traditional banker for a few of my refinances for my long-term holds, but now I'm working with a private bank, basically, so a hard money lender. And I sent them the pitch deck, and he came back and said, we have several investors that want to work with you, that not only, do they like the idea, but obviously you are well organized and you know what you're doing. So that pitch deck really was a good way in the door for me. As far as interest, with my private money lender, it's 12% and 2 points. So I think that's kind of standard. And it's held at that, even though interest rates are going up. And then with this, the refinance I'm just working on now, I think I'm going to probably end up with 10%, which is okay because you know what, when interest rates go down, you can refinance. So it's a way for me to get in the door and get things stabilized. So I don't mind.
Now, a couple of things you just said there that I really want to highlight for listeners as takeaways. The first one being the stats page on Furnished Finder. You can get to it through the resources menu. You can also go to furnishedfinder.com/stats. There's typically, I don't know about you guys, but personally, I usually have about 4,200 tabs open in my browser. And there is not a day where furnishedfinder.com/stats is not there. It's a free tool that is there to help you when you research, because our goal at Furnished Finder is that we get to serve both the landlord and the tenant in the best way, right? So we really want to give potential and current landlords the information of here's what's in demand, here's the pricing that it looks like, right? Like, please help us fill these needs because we want our travelers to have the best experience and to have the best homes and to have availability. So there's so much great information there. I also really encourage anyone who has a property or is thinking about having a property to just go search the map as if you were a traveler and get some kind of soft feedback too, right? I love data. Data is, Excel is my love language, but there's also something to be said to scrolling through listings and just being like, okay, I can do this, or some markets you might be like, this is not this doesn't feel like it would fit in my box, right? So you can get kind of the both sides of the feedback there. The other thing that I love is that you said, I don't have a W-2. I worked with a private lender. I did some different types of financing. There are a lot of different ways to do financing and to get a deal. You can do traditional, and even within traditional, right? You can buy it as an investment property, as a second home, if you're going to spend time there. There's all sorts of different ways to do it. But the most important thing is to go get information, make sure your numbers are good, and then take some action because it's 2023. There are a lot of options out there, and not to be scared of the higher interest rates if the numbers still work, right? At the end of the day, it's an investment, and you just got to make sure everything checks out, and then see what you can do.
One piece of advice I would give to newer investors, I think once you're in the game, you know this, but first of all, you don't have to have the money. You can always find the money. Money will find you. And second of all, you don't need to know everything because you figure out a lot of it as you go along, and a lot of it you don't know until you're in the middle of it. So don't wait, because you'll figure it out and someone will be happy to loan you the money.
You can only learn so much from the sidelines. Then you just got to get in and figure it out.
Let's talk about the confidence part that goes along with that, because a lot of people say, well, I need to know my numbers well to find a private money lender. So how do you make sure that you're confident in your approach when you address these banks and private money lenders?
Hey landlords, are you ready to level up your rental game and simplify your midterm rental business? Well, get ready to meet your new best friend, KeyCheck. KeyCheck is your all-in-one solution for stress-free property management. With tenant-paid screenings, online rent payment processing, custom lease creation, and a suite of incredible landlord tools, you'll wonder how you ever lived without it. No more chasing down checks or sifting through piles of applications. KeyCheck helps you organize and manage all things landlording in a simple and efficient way. Make landlord life a breeze with KeyCheck. the game changer for modern property owners. Visit KeyCheck.com to unlock the power of stress-free property management and take your rental business to new heights.
So with the private money lender I work with the majority of the time, the first couple deals I brought to him, I did a pitch deck. And I talked about what we were going to do for the renovation. Typically, we buy 99% of the time we buy very distressed properties. So renovate them, and I tend to concentrate on kitchens and bathrooms. A bedroom is a bedroom, but if it's a nice kitchen and a nice bathroom, that makes it appealing for everyone. And what I thought the cost would be and what my exit strategy would be, and I explained the midterm rentals. And I showed him what the numbers would be. And now, for the duplex, for instance, I sent him a text. It wasn't even an email. I sent a text. I was like, I've got an opportunity with this duplex. It's going to make a perfect midterm rental. I can put something together. And he texted me back. He goes, nope, sounds good. I'll send you the contract. And I was like, I just feel so lucky that I found someone this good and that he feels that comfortable with me, right? I mean, I certainly pay him interest payments on time every month, and I pay him back in a timely manner. So all that is obviously very important. But once you are in and you build relationships, and I know that on other podcasts you've talked about the importance of relationships, that really is so key, because once you have a trusted relationship with someone, they're much more likely to want to work with you. So that was really important. I do have to say one funny thing though. One of my business bankers, I was talking to her about, I opened up a new LLC just to cover the arbitrage model because it's different. And she's like, tell me a little bit about what you're doing. And I told her, she goes, oh my gosh, I have a property in Rochester I think would be a good term rental. What do you think? I said, sure. So I sent her the link with the stats, and she's like, oh my gosh, this is so helpful. So we're going out to lunch, and I was like, well, I answer any questions you have. But once people that have been landlords understand what this business model can be, and to be able to just send her that link and she could see for herself the opportunity, it was funny. I was like, I'm a big Furnished Finder advocate. I think everyone should be looking at that. So,
oh God, I love the stats page because there's good data, but it's not enough to get you stuck in analysis paralysis. Back before I was a part of Furnished Finder and we were perusing other sites, there's really, really good data out there, but sometimes it's almost too much. And then you start to think, okay, I'm going to make this decision based on just the data. And you forget to take into account, like, well, what do I actually think of this market? What are the other effects on it? What are the other risks? Like it kind of allows you to not think holistically, versus when you have good data, but not an overwhelming amount, it lets you really look at the whole picture, which is so important. So yeah. I think that's great. All right. Yeah. So Sally, Kelly has told me that you also are great at project management, and that you use Trello, which I think I've used in the past. There's a handful of these project management softwares. Yep. They're all amazing. So I want to hear kind of about how you use Trello, how it's helped you stay organized in your business. Because Kelly and I both know firsthand, we're like, things can get confusing real quick.
Yes, things can get confusing real quick. And I launched into Trello. I've used Asana before and Slack, so you're right. There's definitely a few, and I think you just have to pick the one that feels easiest to you. And Trello, and all of them, I'm sure, have free versions. I still, to this day, am using a free version of Trello, but they have boards. It's a very visual application, and I'm a visual learner, so it's easy for me. But one of the things I do for each property is you set up the boards, and I have a template for, in the purchase process, what I have to do, and I can just copy and paste that to each board when I have a new property. But I think one of the things that's been really helpful is I convinced my contractor to download it onto his phone, so we both have it on our phone as well. And that way, when I see something on Pinterest, I'm like, this is what I need the staircase to look like. I can literally from Pinterest put it right into the Trello board so he can access it. He pretends he doesn't like using Trello, and his son who works with him uses Trello a lot. But what's really been very helpful for us is to be able to just put pictures of things so he gets an idea of what I'm talking about. And also, when we get to that time, that crunch time where you have a punch list of the last 4,000 things that need to get done, I'll go with him through the house and I'll just write up what's on the punch list. He'll tell me. And then with Trello, when you go into the punch list and you finish something, you check it off, you can see the progress, and it turns green when the kitchen punch list is done, the living room punch list is done. And so for us, it's really helped us with that last push to get everything finished. And then we have like the last punch list, the last punch list, and we get it done. And it's a really stressful time because I have interest in the property. Typically, I had one property that I got rented before we even got it finished, and the nurse was coming the next week, and it's stressful. But definitely having a way to manage the punch list and to communicate without having to talk to each other has been really, really helpful for us. And having it on your phone makes it that much more accessible. So yeah, I'm a huge proponent of that.
Well, I think you implement ChatGPT and AI into your Trello board as well, and many other aspects of just your real estate business. So how has AI helped you grow and apply to those project management type tools?
Yeah, so I was curious about ChatGPT and the open AI just because I think it's obviously going to affect all of us in everything. So I got a free account with open AI, which I'm assuming everyone can still do, although they had a big whatever happened last weekend. But it's almost like you just want to try different things. And so I created a prompt that says, develop a checklist of items to buy for a midterm rental that has 2 bedrooms and 1.5 bathrooms. Break it out by room and put a checkbox next to each item. And I hit enter, and I was like, I wonder what's going to happen. And about 2.5 minutes later, this whole 3-page list popped up. And I just kind of sat back and went, wow. And to this day, I use that list. I use that list. I've added a few things that it didn't catch. And one of the things you can do is you can have it do another iteration and another iteration. So you have a few versions to choose from. But I use that list for each property. So I print it out, put the property address on there, and I literally have it check so I can check as I get each thing done. And it took no brain energy on my part to create that list, and it's been a really good tool for me. Yeah, I also used it to create the front page text for my website, and I tweaked it. Certainly, I edited it, but it certainly did a very good job. So yeah,
I think it's a great way to just get you started, right? Mm-hmm. Kelly knows this. I've said this so many times. My new goal in life is to never start at square one unless I have to. Right? So if I can use a tool or an app or a process, or if it's something I've done before, that I can use what I've done before just as a base and like the first layer, like just get me a head start, right? Anytime that I can not start a project from zero it's such an efficiency game changer.
Right.
You don't have to think. A lot of the things we do, we're doing them over and over and over and over. I mean, it's like when I make my kids lunches, I always put in their Capri Sun and their Starburst first. And I'm like, I don't have to think about that. It's right. Step one is already done. So exactly. I think that's a really great way how you're using it, and then how you're going through and tweaking it to make it still feel personable and put your twist on that. So I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. And I do have one of my Trello boards is once I first purchased the house, it's things like, call the electric company, call the water company. So to your point, I don't have to think, oh, did I do this? I got it checked off. I'm like, I did call the water company. I did switch that, and just to have that process in front of you, it saves you having to think, and it keeps you, it keeps you more efficient as well.
Perfect. That's great organization. I think we're down to our last 2 questions. We always like to get people's take on what your favorite Furnished Finder, or if you use KeyCheck, our sister company, which is everything you need to get your midterm rental business started once someone says yes: tenant screenings, leases, and rent payments. So between Furnished Finder and KeyCheck, is there any favorite tools that you have on the sites that you want to recommend others make sure they embrace?
So can I say one for each?
Yes.
So for KeyCheck, I really like the leases because typically the nurses are traveling from somewhere on the way here. So it's a state-specific lease, and I can tweak what I need to tweak, and then I can send it to them electronically. They can sign it electronically. Even, I sometimes the tenants aren't that techie, but I said it's going to be very easy. If you can click a button, you'll be able to sign this. And then, I get notification when all the parties have signed. So, and it's right there. I know right where it is. It's very easy, and I do love that about KeyCheck. One of the things I love a lot about Furnished Finders, but one of the tools I've kind of taken on recently is when I have either a direct request to me or an unmatched request. A lot of times I will go in and look at their profile and see what they're saving, because they can save their favorites. And so I'll see if they're coming to Rochester, what they're saving. And it does two things. First of all, it helps me see what they're looking for. And it helps me see what the competition is, because you can't really look at other people's listings that easily. I guess you can if you did the search, but this way I know specifically what a specific person's looking for, and I also will read what they write. It gives me some good ideas, and it also helps with the competition. And it reminds me of back when I was in tourism and working at hotels. One of the things you were supposed to do is go to competitor hotels and look at the reader boards. So you're supposed to look and see who is coming in to do meetings and events, and that was your competition. So I always think of that as it's kind of like doing the same thing. You're looking to see who else are they interested in, where else are they going. And I love to see how people decorate and how they position their property. So it's kind of been a fun little tweaky tool that I've been doing lately.
That is such great advice, because you're right. It's a little hidden gem about the being able to see a tenant's saved properties. It's not front forward. You have to find it. So I think if I remember correctly, when you hit send message, then it pops up another page that says view profile along with the section where you can send the message. And then you hit the view profile and you see, oh, here's where they've saved it. And I'm the same with you. It is extremely helpful, especially in my area where it's Austin has a ton of hospitals of the same brand. So a lot of people put that they're working at St. David's or they're working at Seton, but they don't put which location. So you have no idea if they're 10 minutes from you or 40 minutes from you. So going and looking at those saved listings gives you an idea of, oh, they're in East Austin or they're in this area. So excellent one to highlight. Thank you. I just have one last question, and then Katie, if you have anything to wrap us up, please jump in. Sally, you wanted to make sure and encourage everyone that you're not too old or too young to start something new, and this is your second career. So, what advice and encouragement do you have for others?
Well, I know sometimes people will say, that they're too young or they're too old. And I have a friend that I've met through real estate who's 19 years old, and he's not even old enough to drink when we go to the bars for a real estate meetup, but he's got a bunch of properties under his belt, and I'm so impressed by him. And I think you're not too young. And then, for me to be starting this in my 60s, it's something I could definitely do for 20 years. It's energizing, it's fun, it's challenging. I love learning new things, and it's an industry where things are always changing. So I think, and there's never a wrong age to start something new, and there's never a wrong age to get into real estate. And I think if you're older, it only means your learning curve might go a little quicker because you have so many life skills and life experience, right? And the more people you can meet that are different than you, the quicker you'll come full circle and be a success. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's wonderful. We have our portfolio we run with my family, and my mom loves being a part of it, right? She's in her 60s, but she loves it. She'll be like, what deliveries are coming today? And she's got her organization system all set up, and she loves it kind of when we talk about strategy and which property we want next. All the way down to, I'm thinking the youngest ones that are on our quote team, right, are my nephew, who is, oh my gosh, I think he's 8 or 9, and my daughter, who is 7. And they contribute in a very different way. Mm-hmm. They are both entertainment on furnishing days. They also will put together basic furniture. They like to prove that they can make a bed. And actually, all the way up to my grandma, who's in her mid 80s, she makes these really cute Kleenex box covers and puts one in every unit we have, just because she likes to be a part of the process. So even if your contribution is small, right? Like, it's so much fun. There's so much to learn. And Sally, you are just such a joy. And I love seeing your energy and passion and how you're not afraid to just dive in there. I think everybody can take something from that quality you have.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And, my daughter started when we had the Airbnb, and she was that age, 9, 10, or 11. And, she's looking at a duplex now. So it's, you're never too early to get started. And it's a lifelong career. And it can be a side, something on the side as well. So yeah, definitely. Definitely.
I'm going to add a plug-in. It's never too late to start your family either. So remember, my husband and I were getting into fostering, so I wanted to give a quick update there. We have a 2 and 4-year-old little boy that we're keeping safe and taking care of them. They're such a great addition to our life. We know that eventually they'll go back with family, and we're just keeping them safe until then and ready for our next family adventure after this. But for those that maybe are thinking, is it too late to start a family or add additions to my family? There was 70 pages of kids in Texas. That's just Texas. So if you've ever thought about it, look into it. You can do a round of fostering and then say, hey, this isn't for me. Or you can say, oh, that was awesome. I definitely want to continue helping kids. We've met one lady that has been doing it 25 years and has had 41 kids through her home. So
Wow.
cool.
Wow.
But
Yeah, real
That's
estate
awesome.
can give you that freedom, right? Real estate and midterm rentals, especially, just to tie it together. Like, Kelly's not running back and forth doing same day flips all the time because she's got a 3-day stay here and a 2-day stay there. She's got these more stable properties, and that really gives you so much freedom to explore the things in your life that are meaningful to you. So we hope that this podcast gives everyone the information that they need to make those big moves and feel confident, and because we love all of those things in our life, and they're hugely important. So that's the great thing about midterm rentals, is it really can support your life in such a meaningful way.
it so can. And all three of us are excellent representations of that. Sally, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you let our guests know, and reminder, it's always in the show notes on audio and video on YouTube, of how to connect with Sally, check out our properties on Furnished Finder, etc. How would you like others to connect with you?
I think the two best ways are, I'm on LinkedIn at Sally Davis Berry, Berry, and actually still kind of tourism heavy, but definitely leaning into real estate there. And also my website, which is bristolcreekrealestate.com. Thank you.
Perfect. Excellent.
Love
Thank
it.
you for being with us. And as always, we appreciate you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you next Monday. Bye, everyone.